My name is Grammy. We were on our way Thursday morning. Jill was going to have labor induced, and they thought that the baby would be born, and they didn't find out what it was going to be. And so I'm like, well, we're coming. We'll be there, and I was driving like 90 miles an hour, sometimes 100, and I get this phone call from Lance, which was a miracle because we were driving where you get no service, out in the middle of nowhere. He's like, Mom, I think it's coming pretty fast. And I'm like, how fast? And he's like, well, like in the next half hour maybe. And I was just like, started crying. I wanted to be there so bad to watch him, to watch my son, my flesh and blood, see his son and experience that whole thing. I just wanted to be there so bad. So we're flying down the road, and all of a sudden this hawk just flew straight at the window and just at the last second veered up, and I'm like, that baby's been born. We have a baby. And I was just crying, and Dan's like, don't you want me to drive? And I'm like, no. And so we're flying down the road, and 10 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was Lance, and he was just so full of emotion. His voice was just cracking, and he's like, Mama, we have us a baby. And I was just like, he didn't say boy or girl. And I'm like, and what's its name? And he said, John Brock. And we just squealed because, here I thought we were going to have this little girl named something Jane. And it was John Brock. This weekend that we have together, or it's just maybe 3 days, but it's like just us together. I think it's priceless, and it's the beginning of like our relationship for the rest of his life, or my life, I guess. What this has felt like is like getting to experience my first son from through decades of life experience and wisdom, and to be able to like find the joy in every moment instead of the like, okay, what is a parent supposed to be doing right now? Do I say no? Do I, all those parental decisions you're making moment to moment, instant to instant, and this is watching from just a whole different perspective, and it's joy. That's all I can say is just about it is just pure joy. Like we watered the plants, and I let him play in the water and get all wet, instead of like, don't get your clothes wet. It's like, just got all wet and it was squealing and smelling the flowers and just loved it. And then we picked up rocks, and it was like, okay, how far can you throw it, and he would always clap. That was the big thing. You clap after he does a big throw. And so he's just so easily excited and happy. And I've been happy ever since we picked him up. I've just been on a smile on my face the whole, 24 hours now. I start every morning with like what I'm grateful for. And my family is like number one. And I realize that my family has fueled so many of the things that I've done in my life, like photography, for instance. Family for me it represents unconditional love. And so, like I said, starting my morning with gratitude of my family, that brings into my conscious thinking what unconditional love feels like, and to try to like bring that into my experience of the day. And it's like that's something that I want my sons to know, and I think they do, that I will always, always love them regardless. And I know my parents feel that way about us, my generation. And there's a lot of security that you feel in knowing that you are loved unconditionally.